Now to the latest on the fallout from the UK's decision to leave the EU. British Prime Minister David Cameron is in Brussels to meet with EU leaders for the first time since the referendum. He's set to face tough questions over his country's decision to vote to leave the EU.
Well, good afternoon. I'll be explaining that Britain will be leaving the European Union, but I want that process to be as constructive as possible, and I hope the outcome can be as constructive as possible, because, of course, while we're leaving the European Union, we mustn't be turning our backs on Europe. These countries are our neighbours, our friends, our allies, our partners, and I very much hope we'll seek the closest possible relationship in terms of trade and cooperation and security, because that is good for us and that is good for them. And that's the spirit in which the discussions, I think, will be held today.
Well, the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, has also spoken to reporters. He's also due to meet EU leaders and heads of state over the UK's referendum. He says the sooner the European Union and UK start the process of separation, the better for them both.
Europe is ready to start the divorce process even today, without any enthusiasm, as you can imagine. This is not the scenario we were dreaming about. We have precise procedures, we have a ready work plan, but I would like to underline very, very clearly, without the notification from the UK, we will not start any negotiations on the divorce process or on future relations.
Let's go to TRT Wales' Jon Brain, who is in Brussels for us. Jon, European MEPs met this morning, holding their first session together since the Brexit decision. It was a very emotional debate. Talk us through what happened.
Yes, Marlene, the repercussions of that historic vote for Britain to leave the EU still being felt right across Europe. This was the first opportunity for members of the European Parliament to meet since then, and it was indeed a fairly heated atmosphere, at times quite acrimonious. And at the centre of it was the leader of the UK Independence Party, Nigel Farage, clearly gleeful about the vote by his compatriots. This is what he had to say.
We, between us, between your countries and my country, we do an enormous amount of business in goods and services. That trade is mutually beneficial to both of us. That trade matters. If you were to decide to cut off your noses, to spite your faces, and to reject any idea of a sensible trade deal, the consequences would be far worse for you than it would be for us.
Now, we know more meetings taking place this evening between European leaders and the British Prime Minister David Cameron. What are we expecting from that?
Well, this again will be the first chance for face-to-face contact since the vote, this time amongst the 27 or 28 at the moment leaders, including David Cameron, where behind closed doors they'll, I'm sure, be giving him a piece of their mind about allowing this referendum in the first place, and certainly in not being able to secure victory as he had promised to them earlier in the year. But interestingly, tomorrow he will be conspicuous by his absence. He's been uninvited from tomorrow's session, when the 28 will just go down to 27. And the big debate they have to resolve is how do they treat Britain once it leaves, as we've been hearing a lot about this Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which has to be triggered so that negotiations can begin. Now, European leaders making it clear they won't have preliminary negotiations until that treaty has been invoked, which means that once it starts, the clock is ticking, and Britain is in difficult waters if it can't secure the trade deals to replace the arrangement it already has now. So it's going to be a tough couple of years for the British to try and secure the deals that they need, but the EU in no mood to give Britain any special favours.
OK, Jon, good to speak to you. Jon Brain there for us live in Brussels, keeping us across those meetings as they happen in the coming hours.